Well, today I got a picture of the leaves as they're beginning to turn, and a little bit of difference from the last picture you saw a couple of days ago. We're going backwards from Revelation to Genesis with some of my favorite sections of Scripture, and I was very interested as I glanced over some of the notes that John Phillips made about this particular passage of Scripture. It's found in 1 Timothy chapter 3, verses 1 through 7. It's the qualifications for an elder or a pastor of a church. And he made some comments, some pointed comments about it's a shame the way so many churches use totally different qualities and requirements for pastors and elders. He said it's not a popularity contest. It's not based on social influence. It's not based on a lot of the things that the world now considers to be important for elders and pastors. But he said 1 Timothy chapter 3 verses 1 through 7 is definitely God's way of finding pastors and elders. It is a trustworthy statement. If any man aspires the office of overseer, pastor, or elder, it is a fine work he desires to do. An overseer, pastor, or elder then must be above reproach, the husband of one wife, temperate, prudent, respectable, hospitable, and able to teach, not addicted to wine or pugnacious, but gentle, peaceable, free from the love of money. He must be one who manages his own household well, keeping his children under control with all dignity. But if a man does not know how to manage his own household, how will he take care of the church of God? And not a new convert, so that he will not become conceited and fall into the condemnation incurred by the devil. And he must have good reputation with all of those, including those outside of the church, so that he will not fall into reproach and a snare of the devil. These are very, very easily understood statements, qualifications, with the exception of one that continues to have a great deal of battle, and that is the husband of one wife. There are those that continue to argue that this means that he has only one wife at a time. It's not that he can be a person, as a Mormon would have multiple wives. Others have said that it means one wife at a time, which means he could be divorced and remarried, but he can't be married to two at the same time. The qualifications of a man having had one wife is an interesting qualification, and one that you can't dress up in black or white. For if you take the position that a man can have been married, divorced, or widowed, and marry again, and just make that a general rule, it would not take into consideration how long they'd been married, what the circumstances of their divorce or their situation was. We have certainly many illustrations in our modern day world of such a situation. Not just north of Brandon. When I pastored in Brandon was a church that had a pastor whose wife left him. He had been pastor there for a number of years. The church knew the circumstances. They knew both sides of the story. And when the pastor offered to resign, or did resign, they refused to accept his resignation. They said he had done nothing wrong. The pastor pastored for a number of additional years, and then he decided to remarry because his wife had divorced him. And again, the church knew the circumstances of his wife's divorce, of his life, and knew his new wife and knew all of the circumstances. And once again, he offered to resign, and they did not accept his resignation, but again wanted him to stay on, and he did for a number of additional years. Charles Stanley, the pastor in Atlanta, had a situation where his wife wanted to divorce him, and Some people knew the circumstances, some didn't. Some say even his own son didn't understand what was really happening. Charles Stanley, I believe, is divorced now. Certainly is separated at the very least. And yet he is not remarried, and he continues very fruitful ministry. What am I trying to say? You have to weigh the circumstances. The church has to be in agreement. Again, this is like the qualifications for deacon. If the church won't receive you as a deacon, you might just as well not be a deacon. And if the church won't receive you as a pastor, you might just as well not be a pastor there. Certainly, all of the other qualifications stand fast. And Jesus has always taught to remember the spirit of the law and not just the letter of the law. So with that one issue that each church will have to work out for themselves, we have very stringent guidelines for the qualification of an elder or a pastor. If a man meets all of these, truly he is going to be an example to the flock. And we need to be sure that when we look for pastors and elders, that they meet the qualifications that sets them as an example in the church. And that's my thought for the day. I hope you enjoyed the pictures of the panorama and also the close-up of a little bit more color in just one corner of the lake there. We'll continue to keep you posted on the changing of the leaves. God bless you and have a great day.